Recording in progress.
There we go. Edwin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gordon. Pleasure to be here.
Sorry, and again, thanks for being patient while I ran a little behind schedule today. Would you mind just kind of starting off introducing yourself to folks that haven't heard of Rojas Entertainment?
Sure. My name is Edwin Rojas. I was born in Miami, Florida. The last 7, 8 years, I've been living in Las Vegas. I've been in the arts and the performing arts since I was a young kid, 10 years old. And then since 2014, I've had my own company, and we basically two facets to the company. What used to be three, two facets of the company now. Basically, 60% of the business is selling celebrities, mainly to casino promotions, which means a blackjack tournament with an athlete, a famous athlete or famous Hollywood star, blackjack tournament, roulette tournament, slot tournament, or just an event for their elite players, their creme de la creme
Sure.
on their card people. And then the other 40%, we book tribute bands on cruise ships. I was in the cruise ship business for almost 25 years or so. And so I still supply them with some comedians, but mainly tribute bands.
Sure.
Yeah.
So at 10 years old, how do you get started in the entertainment industry? Because, child labor laws and stuff like that can get a little fuzzy.
Well, I was just thinking before I came on here, I thought, I started cruise ships, working on cruise ships when I was 17 years old. I turned 18 on them, and I was drinking. And of course, now you got to be 21 to work on board.
Right.
21. So things have changed. But I was a really shy kid, and my mom, smart lady that she was, a magic shop opened near where we lived. She bought me some tricks, and I started doing it. And I realized, hey, I'm pretty good at this, and I love what I'm doing, and I make people happy, and it brought me out of my shell. I mean, if we went to a party, I was the kid that sat in the corner and didn't say anything to anybody the whole day. It's just the way I was. I was my family, very outgoing, my friends outgoing, but if I didn't know you, I'd shut up. And I was really that way till I became a cruise director, probably in the early 90s. So I was late 20s or so. And at Holland America Line, which is where I was working, it started in 91 there. One of the responsibilities of the cruise director was to go to all these parties every night. If you had 10 or more people, they'd throw a party for you, and had to go and kibitz with them and talk to them and chat to them. And that really broke me out of my shyness. And now I'm gregarious and talk to everybody, and it drives my sons crazy. When we live in Florida, there's toll roads, and I would stop at the toll road, pay my toll, and talk to the lady. Hey, how are you today? Hey, there's only 100 days of Christmas, blah, 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 whatever it may be. And my son's, Dad, shut up, let's go. But I talk to everybody, and I tell them all the time, everyone has a story. Talk to people, you never know. Everyone has a story. Some are okay, and some are just fascinating,
Right.
And you never know who that fascinating person is going to be.
And
so yeah, that's how I started breaking out of my shyness as a kid. Worked my way through high school doing that. It's the only job I've ever had. Then I worked my way through college. Every summer when I wasn't in school, I'd perform on the cruise ships, and that's how I started a 25-year career at sea before I started my company.
when you're performing on the cruise ship, were you still doing the magic tricks or in the sleight of hand, or?
Yeah, not sleight of hand. I was gonna say I was a doofus. I made people laugh
Sure.
and smile. I was a comedian, but I did a couple tricks, but mainly everything was about making people happy and smiling. And so I always said I did comedy magic.
Sure.
And then I did that through Holland America Line that I just mentioned before. They hired me I had worked on cruise ships before then, doing my show and being an assistant cruise director and being a cruise director, which is in charge of the entire entertainment department on board the vessel. You have in charge of all the musicians, all the shows, all the singers and dancers, all the speakers, the lecturers, all the youth department. There's youth departments on board. On some of the cruise lines, you're also in charge of the shore excursions, which sell the tickets to go on tours when you land in a port. But yeah, I did that as much as I could, and I loved it. And then when I got to Holland America Line, they said, "We'll hire you as an assistant for a year, maybe two." And at that time, Holland, to me, was the company. I've always wanted to work there. Great reputation, over 100 years old. The company sailed all around the world. Incredible product, incredible people working there. And they said, but you can't perform anymore. They're like, oh. And it really irked me for 6 months. And I said, you know what? It's a great move. And I just moved on. I performed when I had a microphone in my hand, and I didn't need all the props. I was still funny. I still made people feel good. I still made people laugh. And yeah, it was, and their idea behind it is, if you're a performer, you need to have all that energy when you're on stage. So on ships, you got to do 2 shows a night. If the ship has 4,000 people, the theater only holds 2,000. So there's a show at 7, a show at 9, or 8 and 10, whatever. Anyway, whatever the show is, you got to repeat it twice. So by the time the second show came around, if you were working all day as a cruise director up from 7 in the morning, you're out of energy, and there's no way that is your top show. And Holland America had the policy of, you can't perform. You're either a cruise director or you're a performer, but you can't do both. And at first, as I said before, I wasn't in favor of that policy. But once I was there and got the groove and realized that's a very smart policy to get the best shows they can and to get the best performance from the cruise director and cruise staff throughout the day. So yes.
Yeah, and I mean,
long answer for your question. Sorry.
no worries. It's perfect. And I understand that. I mean, I work full time, and then I do a podcast as well. And by the end of the week, Friday night, it's like, can I just get 6 hours of silence, please?
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, people don't realize. Even though you say, well, you're sitting at a desk all day, yeah, but you still have to have energy to produce and have passion for that. If you're running low on energy, it's, you'll try your best, but it's never your best performance.
Right.
See that a lot in sports. People know the away team always performs worse. Yeah, they're on an airplane for 3 or 4 hours to get there, checking into a hotel, trying to get some sleep, and sometimes they have 2 or 3 of those in a row. The performance is never there, and that's why. Traveling is tough.
Mm-hmm.
Or just not having the energy.
Right. But to just wind it back a little bit, I mean, how did you go? You said you started in the cruise industry at 17. I mean,
yeah.
I suppose being in Florida, they're not an uncommon sight. Was that you saw one and you go, that's where I want to work one day, or was it kind of a slow progression?
Almost, man, you almost got it. As I said before, I started as a comedy magician. I was 10 years old performing magic, the only job I ever had. My maternal side is all in education, so they said you can do anything you want, but you have to have an education. And I said, okay, that's a fair deal. So I went to college, and me being the big guy, I'm going to move out of my parents' house, have my own place. I had my own apartment a mile and a half from my parents' house. Ooh, I really moved away. But anyway, I had my own place. But in Miami at that time, between May and September, October, hurricane season, hot and humid. There was no conventions or no tourists there. Nobody really came to Miami in the summertime. Now it's a year-round city, but back then it was different. So then there was no shows. I was doing kids' birthday parties as a performer, but that really wouldn't pay the rent. I needed bigger shows to do, and I couldn't pay the rent. I was putting my rent on a credit card, and I said, this isn't going to work out. The ending to this story is really ugly. I need something else. So sure enough, somebody said, oh, all those cruise ships. And as you said, I saw them every day of my life as a kid, sailing out Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays out of the port of Miami. And they're ships, okay, whatever. My family could afford it. Whatever, it's a cruise ship, it's a vacation. I had no idea there were shows on board. But somebody said, somebody said, there are magicians and performers and comedians on every one of those ships. I go, oh, ding, light bulb went off. Now this is early 80s. I graduated high school in 81. I'm 58 in case anybody's trying to do the math. So there was no internet. So I basically mailed by U.S. Postal Service flyers, resumes to all the cruise lines, and 90% of them were based in Miami. And then the other month when I didn't mail them something, I personally go and knock on their door, unannounced, cold call, and some would let me come in for 5 minutes. Oh yeah, leave your stuff there. Some would just blow me off. The receptionist, sorry, they won't see you today. But I did that for 6 months, and I got my foot in the door. And sure enough, I got a Norwegian cruise line, NCL as they're called me in, and they said, would you like to work 2 weeks? And if you work out, we'll get you on for 4 months. I go, well, I can't do 4 months because I got to go back to school. Well, okay. So I did my 2 weeks. They loved me, and I stayed there for 3-4 months, 2.5, 3 months of my summer break in college for 4 years. And when I graduated college, I realized I really loved doing this. And I stayed at sea performing. And then eventually a cruise director saw me and said, you've got the personality to do what I do. I go, nah, that's not my thing. I was a party animal. I was staying up all night when the sun was rising. I had breakfast, then I went to bed, and I saw them waking up and going to work. And I go, no way, I have to flip my whole lifestyle.
Right.
But it stuck in my head because I always loved the business part of show business more than actually doing the show. And sure enough, I said, wow, cruise director, assistant cruise director, it's the business of show with more business than the show. And it's kind of hit in my cranium, I can do this. And I did it, and I became an assistant for 2 years, and I was promoted right away. And I did it for 20 years.
So not to beat a dead horse this on the cruise side, I do want to get to you opening and running your own business.
But the cruise side, man, the cruise side is fascinating. And some people, cruise. I grew up on ships. It taught me everything I know about this business. I met my wife on ships. My best friends I met on ships. All my acquaintances are from ships. I did it for 20, 25 years. I ended up in the corporate office booking all the entertainers for a major cruise line. I had $1 million budget per month, and I loved it, And then 2008, big recession came. I was let go. Next day, everybody else in my department was let go. And then I said, hey, I'm going to start my own thing. But sorry, you can ask anything you want to.
No, I'm just curious. So I went on, was it one cruise, I think, when I was probably about as tall as or up to a knee on a grasshopper. But I remember, for me, it was this exciting being that young and then getting, look out and there's ocean, the islands and everything else that you see. But when you're a performer on there, you said you do 2 shows a night. Is that 7 days a week, or do they give you a little bit more time off?
It's usually 1 night a week, and you have 6 nights to do nothing. Or on some, back then, now it's like that because now they're really putting a lot of money into entertainment. They have the performers do 1 show, and maybe the last night of the cruise, every entertainer does 10 or 15 minutes, like an old-fashioned variety show,
sure.
Ed Sullivan type thing. But when I was out there, you did 1 main show, 45 minutes twice, so the whole night was yours, and you might have done another 15 or 20 minutes to open for a singer or a comedian to make one, a little bit of, like if a comedian said, I only have 30 tight minutes, they'll say, oh, we'll put the magician in front of them for 15 minutes or so. So really you work at best 2 nights a week and 5 nights to entertain yourself. The bar bill was a lot.
Knowing how I spent money in my younger, early 20s, I mean, how do you balance out the money to fun ratio? Because when you get back, I mean, you still have bills to pay and worry about.
Absolutely, you just still have bills to pay. There was a lot of people on ships, even when I managed them as a cruise director, that they would open up their envelope. Back then, you used to get paid cash on board in the old days. Now, of course, you got to just report it to the government. Back then, you get an envelope every other week or every week, and you inside, and your money was there. Some people would have an IOU. You owe us $100. You drank too much this week. And a lot of musicians, unfortunately. But yeah, you had to budget yourself. And I think I don't even remember what my budget was back then. But yes. And there were some weeks you saw a nice looking girl and you chased her or whatever, and your bar tab went up. And but you're a young person. As long as I paid my rent, I made sure I could pay my bills, my other, my utilities, credit card bill, whatever I had, and the rest to me was save when you're old. Right. I'm blowing it. I'm having a good time. In the cruise ship, the food is amazing, simply amazing food, and you after being there 2 or 3 weeks, you're tired of it. Oh, let's go to lunch. Oh, let's go to dinner. And you're spending hundreds of dollars a week going out to dinner. And this is 80s, 90s, early 2000s. So it was a lot cheaper back then.
So I remember on our cruise, it'd be like at sea for 1, maybe 2 days, but then it'd make a stop somewhere. In our case, down around the Yucatan. Same kind of schedule for you. So within those 5 days, you're just not trapped on that boat. I mean, you get to go out and explore different areas.
Gordon, I've traveled the whole world besides the Suez Canal and Antarctica. I pretty much know the world. If there's a port there that a ship can come alongside, I've been there. North America, of course, Canadian Maritimes, Alaska, South America, Central America, Caribbean, some of Africa, some parts of Africa, the Mediterranean. I was a specialist I used to go Barcelona to Venice, Italy, every summer for like 6 or 7 summers. It's my favorite part of the world. I know French Polynesia, Asia, Australia. So Yes, you would go out, even when you're a cruise director, you're working every day. Uh, by noon, you probably, if the ship was in port, by noon you're done. You probably got to come back to work at 4 or 5 o'clock. I would always go out to lunch and walk around and see something, come back, take a power nap, and then go on for the night's activities. But yes, you would go out and explore. Absolutely.
So was it tough then transitioning? You said you're in the corporate office for a few years. I mean, to have the freedom of it. Yeah, I was a field rep for my company for 3 years, and I loved the freedom. The best part of the job was the freedom. The worst part of the job was the freedom.
The best part of the job of working on land, when I finally got on land in the corporate office, I saw my family every night, and that was huge to me. The worst part, I think, was besides the commute, I was living 70 miles one way from my office, so I was traveling an hour 15. There was one day I left my house at 6:30 in the morning, and I got to my office at 10:30, and I was living. And my secretary said, "You look terrible." I go, "Tilaire, I could have been on a plane in London by now." It was crazy, But the first 3 or 4 months, the hardest thing was not having an afternoon nap, and because on cruise ships, when you're waking up at 7 and you finish around 1 in the morning, and you're going full time, 7 days a week, 4 to 5 months at a time. Then you go home. I always said I took all my weekends together. So you're working 7 days a week for 4 months, then you go home for 1 or 2 months and do nothing. So all my weekends and holidays were together. But when I was working in the corporate office, yeah, you're up early, you're going, and yeah, you leave at 6 or 7 at night. But like you said, you're drained you're giving it full power. And then like after lunch and after I tried to have a coffee and like you're still like, oh, I need a nap.
Right.
And it took me 2 months to break that habit of not having the nap. You just got to keep going, And then you get home, like, oh, you're dead. And come Friday after that long commute, you're like, oh, it was done. Yeah. The weekends, I'd wash the car. I said, I don't want to go anywhere. I'm staying home. Yeah.
So in 2008, after getting out, did you stay or transition to another cruise company, or is that when you decided this is my time to start the company?
Well, I was already in the corporate office. Being on the ships, I always said by the age of 40, you've got to get off. It's, as I said, it's 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, sometimes 18 hours a day. You don't have no break. It's really tough. And so in my mind, I said, by the age of 40, I need to do something else. So I was actually 42 or 43 when I got off ships, but I knew I wasn't going to go back to ships. So I had 2 jobs to go to. Through a guest that was on the ships, he was one of the part owners of Morton Steakhouse. And he had set up an appointment with me with the Morton Steakhouse next day, and they had hired me and said, "You want the job, you got to accept it by this day, you'll be an assistant manager, and we'll go from there." And I knew I was really good with people. I'm detail oriented. I knew I'd end up being the manager one day. I said, okay, that's super. And then I had a chance to go in the corporate office for Celebrity Cruises, and it was going to be in charge of all the cruise directors, the first job. So I said, if I don't get that, my plan B is to go and take this Morton Steakhouse assistant manager job. But anyway, I got the job, and I said 5 years later, 2008 came around, and I was let go. And in my mind, I had never been let go of any job in my life. And still to this day, I was stupid. I never took unemployment. I didn't know you could take unemployment. They gave me a severance. Like, oh, I was happy with that. And the funny thing is, my wife and I had purchased this house in 2000. We moved in 2001, brand new home. And for the 8 years, we're like, should we get a pool? Nah, I can't afford a pool. Should we get a pool? Nah, I get a pool. I said, things are going great, honey. Let's get a pool. So it was being built. The day I was let go is the day they got the CO for the pool. It was done, complete. We can go in. According to the city government, it's free. So I got fired that day, or let go, whatever you want to call it. I was let go, I guess, whatever. And that day, the pool was done. So I laid by the pool for 3 months, having a good time. Then the money ran out, so I needed to get a job. And I got a job actually as an agent for a company called Barry Ball Artists. And they are the largest agency for the cruise ship industry. So I kind of knew what I was doing. I kind of learned the thing. And then I realized I love the owner. I just said, I can do this for myself and do it a little bit differently. And that's what I did. So I was there a year and a half or so. And then I moved on with his blessing. So it was all good.
During that time, were you able to kind of lean on your old contacts for booking jobs?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, through Barry Ball, he really wanted me to come he wanted to diversify. I mean, all his eggs, he was a multi-million-dollar company. And all his eggs were in the cruise ship business. And he's a little foreshadowing now because he's like, if something happens to a cruise ship, well, what happens to me? And sure enough, we've all, well, even ourselves, with COVID done, everything's just coming back online now and nowhere near as before COVID. But my job when he hired me was to bring in outside business, either corporate work, casinos, etc. And I was bringing in casinos. And one day I was servicing a South Florida casino account. And the lady who was the booker there, she goes, you're really good at what you do. You should work for yourself. And I don't know what got into me, but I said, really? She goes, yeah, absolutely. You should work for yourself. I go, if I work for myself, would you give me your business? She goes, absolutely. So I went home, I incorporated, and I was scared as hell to do it. I had never really worked for myself. I was supporting a family, 2 sons, and sure enough, so I think this was in April, and August 1st, I started the company 4 months later. So, yeah.
Did you ever have that inkling before that conversation? Like just that little voice in the back of the head saying, you could do this,
yes. Ever since high school, even junior high, I was reading Business Week. As I said before, I love business. I love the study of business. Even to this day, the news that I most go to, New York Times, I go to the business section first. It's what I love. So in my mind, I always had the dream of working for myself, being my own boss. And yes, it took me a long time to do it, but I did it, I was in my 40s.
Yeah, I was mid-20s. I ran my own business for a short while. And I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't trade the experience and what I learned for the world. But if I could go back and just smack myself up backside of the head a few times, because that's why I'm now in corporate America, because that fell apart. But it did land me what was supposed to be a part-time gig, and I'm still with the company 8 years later.
Good.
So
that's good. Yeah.
But when
Absolutely.
going home, I imagine you talked to your family and said, "Hey, I want to incorporate this." I mean, what was that conversation like? Did they try to talk you out of it, or even friends for that matter?
My wife is the most easygoing person. She goes, if you want to do it, and you think we do it, go for it. And she's been 1,000% supportive of everything I do. The better story is I was working on 2 major projects here in Las Vegas. I was living in South Florida. I was born in Miami, lived in West Palm Beach the last 20 years I was there. We moved here in 7 years ago. And this is the conversation I thought this is going to be interesting, but I was flying here 2 to 3 times a month for these 2 projects we were doing. And I went something out of the blue. I just told her on a Sunday, we're sitting by the pool. We lived by the pool. And I said, what do you think if we moved? She goes, to where? I go, how about Las Vegas? She goes, why? I go, well, I'm flying there 2, 3 times a month. We'd probably save 4 to 5, maybe $6,000 every month just in travel. She goes, yes. I go, really? Just like that. And she had never, ever, ever been here. My wife is British, so down to earth. I'm crazy, and she brings me down. Yin and yang. We're a great couple, great relationship. And sure enough, I said, book tickets, and I said, I got to put her in a really nice hotel, or this is going to go bad. So I found a thing online, the Wynn Hotel for 4 nights, airfare, I think $400 or $500 hotel credit for like $2,000. I go, I'm there. She got in. She was really impressed with the Wynn. The Wynn is a beautiful property. Still is to my day one of my favorite properties on the Strip. And I said we got to find a house. We got 4 days to find a house. And Las Vegas, and anybody will tell you here, is not known for its school system. And there's really there's 2.2 million people in the valley. And it's really 30 miles long and probably 10, 15 miles wide. And there was two areas we had to be in. And the one area, we found the right school, couldn't find a house by it. Found the right house, school sucked by it. Finally, on day 4, we're running out of time. Day 3, we're running out of time. I go, oh my God, we only have a day. We got to find a house. My friend calls me out of the blue. You should look by us. I go, yeah, but those houses are too expensive. I just want to rent. She goes, oh, no, there's a neighborhood just down the street. It's much less expensive. You should look there. In fact, I have a realtor friend. I'll call her. She's going to call you. Next day, we found the perfect house. My friend said, let's go. So this was in June. In 7 weeks, we had packed up a 3-bedroom house in Florida, put everything on a truck, moved it all here, and we were here. And now I look back, as you say, you know, when you're older and you look back, I should have done this, this, and this. I should have started my company way earlier than I did. And when you move transcontinental, sell everything and just buy it new.
Right.
It's so much easier. So much easier. Oh, this is scratched and that broke. Who cares? Just sell it, buy it new, and it's over.
Yeah, I was getting to that point. I moved south only about an hour and a half. And halfway through loading the truck up, I was like, you know, I just want to put everything in the backyard and have a bonfire and just start over at this point.
Yeah, my in-laws are from there. My wife is British. They moved from England. They went to Spain for 10 years or so, maybe a little over. And when they moved, they sold everything, but I think one piece of furniture was a family heirloom. And I look back and they're smart, you know, they're really smart. And another thing, when I first met my in-laws, and they're the greatest people in the world. My father-in-law can talk to a broomstick, Welsh, and he talks to everybody. When we lived in Florida, we had lived there for a year, and I knew my direct neighbors and across the street. Within 4 days, he knew everybody on that street. I go, Louie, he goes, you just got to talk to people. And he's right. You just got to talk to people, you know. But they never watch the news. I go, how can they not watch the news? And actually, I'm not watching the news now. My life is so much better.
Yes.
As of May of this year, I've been a news junkie my whole life, read multiple newspapers online, multiple sites, news at night on television, whatever. In May, I stopped. We spent our summer in England. I put on the BBC for highlights of the world for 10 seconds. And now I watch on CBS Morning News. I think it's called CBS Mornings. It's their morning chat show. They have the world. They recap the world in 90 seconds. I watch that. I go away and I go to work, you know. And I feel better, less stress. Right. The president said this. I don't care. Someone said, I don't care.
Right.
You know, what the mayor does affects me much more than what the president does.
Yeah, I took advice from another show, and they talked about the sphere of influence. You know, can you directly influence what's around you?
Exactly.
Or does it directly affect you, yes or no? And follow that flow chart. And yeah, I stopped. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I stopped worrying about the news in college. You know, I was a poli-sci major along with history and teaching, and you know, I was reading 3-4 different newspapers and constantly watching the news after getting home. And it was stressful.
Know what's happening in the world. I got to know what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And it's, you know, to what you just said, that little book that came out probably a decade ago, 2 decades ago, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Basically the same thing. If you can't control it, why worry about it, you know? It'll pan itself out. My mom, God rest her soul, always said it'll all work out in the end. And it does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're all, oh my God, I can't have no money for this and it. And it happens. Oh, the money came or whatever. Or you get a lot of money. Oh, and sure enough, there's a big bill coming and it goes away. It's just the way it happens. That's the power of nature or the internet, or not the internet, the universe or God, whatever you want to say. It's just the way it works. It'll always work out.
So since landing in Vegas, you know, 7-ish years now, and moving your business over there, I mean, did things get easier with you? I mean, I think everybody, if you think Vegas, you think casinos, you think the entertainment, the shows, and everything going on. Was it easier, or is it a real saturated market for that?
It's a very saturated market, but it's been great for my business. Entertainers have a plethora of agencies to sign with. And if you say, oh, you're from Vegas, they think, oh, Vegas, there's a big entertainment halo effect, made everything a lot easier for clients that I book with and to grab talent to represent. So it's been really good for me.
I mean, how did you?
It sucks, but it's been good for me.
How did you, in the beginning at least, when you're still in South Florida and then into Vegas, set yourself apart from the competition? You know, me being in sales for as long as I have, you know, some of the best advice I got was people buy from people. And I imagine it's kind of in the same realm as that with you.
It's all personal relationships. And I think my two people like me. I'm very amicable to people. I'm non-abrasive. And I'm very detail oriented, and I'm very punctual. If you said be there at 2:00, I'm always there at 1:50, 1:45, but I'm never late. If I'm late, something happened to the car, there was a big accident, but I'm never late. And people, 90% of my business, maybe more, is on email. And people send an email, oh my God, your email is like instant messaging. I go, if I don't answer the email, I'm not going to eat. Right. So yes, and I know some people like I book celebrities, and some big agencies, you send them an email, 2 days later, you send them another one. You even fax them. I go, fax died in 1999, and they still want to fax. I fax them. I call them. Like, oh yeah, how you doing? There's no urgency, and it drives me nuts. I'm very on top of it. So, and like you said, and you wine and dine people, and people like you and send you business.
So, do you find yourself more now where you seem like your established company? Are more agencies coming to you at this point, or are you still having to go out and try to find them?
Both. But I'm going to be honest with you, after COVID now, I mean, it's like starting a company from scratch all over again. And I thought it was just me. I think, but I have friends that also have agencies, or specialize in musicians, or specialize in comedians. And, you have your little circle of people that you bounce ideas off, and you call them, and everyone is suffering right now the same thing. Let's say, Gordon, you were the booker for MGM Resorts, and we had a relationship, and you were giving me 4 contracts a month, whatever. Well, Gordon now got fed up with COVID and retired. Or Gordon took his severance and is going to move somewhere else, but right now he's sitting by the pool having fun. Or Gordon was let go. So and pretty much cruise lines, casinos, corporations that had an event department. They got a big company like IBM, and you're the event producer that works under the marketing department. You do all their event employee events and conventions or whatever. It seems that all those people in all these industries have changed, either by retiring, being let go during COVID. So I got to reestablish all those connections again, and doing it by mass emailing, calling, hiring a publicist, putting ads on LinkedIn, putting ads on Google, just doing everything. And it's coming. Last week, it started finally coming around. Like Monday of last week, it was like, oh, it's like pre-COVID. It's great. And I called my friends. Yeah, they said, whatever happened, everyone, I don't know, there's an energy and something's happening again as of last week. So I'm thankful, I'm blessed, and I'm hoping it comes around again. Even if it's 3/4 of what it was before COVID, I'll be very happy. But it's getting there, but it's not there yet.
Yeah. And for me, I watch my sales like a hawk. First thing I do when I come in the morning is pull up my spreadsheet. How am I doing? How do I do yesterday? How does it compare overall year to year? Blah, blah. When COVID hit, things were, and we were kind of fine, but Wisconsin shut down. And it's the day after the state shut down, I watched my sales drop through the floor. And I about paced a trench in my floor. And I ended up dropping, about 40% year over year at that point. And I was sitting there questioning, yes, I have this nice cushion because I have a multi-billion-dollar company at my back. You as a self-employed business owner, at any point in there, did you go?
Ugly. It was. I am the most upbeat, positive person in the world. I had summer of 2020 was the most, in our books, was going to be the summer of summers for our company. March 15th, it starts to go away. COVID's really big. It's all you hear. I'm sucked into the news. I was still a news junkie then. I couldn't freaking turn it off. It was crazy. And then the cruise ships start calling. This contract canceled. This one canceled. Oh, it's a couple. And in my mind, it's March, April, May, 3 months. By June, we're going again. Here we are 18 months later, and it's still not going again. But anyway, I was in denial. I was in complete denial. And as I look back, I think I was clinically depressed. I don't know. I've never been to a psychiatrist, psychologist, but I woke up, it would come, and by April 30th, the summer was wiped out. Everything was clean. Nothing was happening. And I usually wake up to be in West Coast base. Most of the entertainment decision makers are on the East Coast, as mostly of America, as you probably know, being
Mm-hmm.
in the Midwest. So by the time I get to my computer at 6:37 in the morning, there's usually 50 emails there, something to do. Come in, nothing. Not even people trying to sell me anything, nothing. It's like, oh my God. So after lunch, I go take a nap. And it's like, I was depressed. Next day, oh, nothing. And it's like, so yeah, I save for a rainy day, but after a year of that, there is no more rainy day. You're done, you know. And luckily, there was a program here in Nevada for pretty much, you know, sole proprietorships or people, one or two employees. We had unemployment. I had never taken unemployment in my life, and I survived on that. And then all of a sudden, the Small Business Administration, thank you, U.S. government, had a program to help businesses, affected by the COVID pandemic. And I took a loan, and I took the maximum loan I could get, and it was 3%. And I start paying back. So supposed to be start paying back this summer. They postponed it. Now it's next summer, but we survived on that. And then out of the blue, there was a program, and I was bitching and moaning because every country in the world was taking care of every company in the arts except the States. They're like, in England they're doing this, and my friends in Canada, and the Australians, and we get zilch. Well, I ate my words because they came up with a grant program for companies that are drastically affected by COVID, and we had more than 90% of our revenue go away. So we had a nice little grant. We just got to prove to them now where we spent it, you know, whatever. And it's the government said, thank you, and you don't have to pay it back. So I have one loan I got to pay back. I have that grant, and that's how we survived. And now the money is finally coming in, you know, but our first check for something that came in was like 3 months ago. But that's been it. And then this month something came in too, but now it's building. The thing in my industry, whatever I book today, a contract goes, I'm not going to get the money for 90 days because the job is 90 days away. Usually 60 to 90 days, that's where the job is. And when the job happens, that's when you get paid.
Did you ever think at any point before before the grant and the loan of maybe it's time to throw in the towel, or maybe I pivot?
I thought of it. I thought maybe I just get a UPS franchise, you know, one of those UPS stores.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a bad gig. Okay, you wake up at 7 in the morning. It opens from 8 o'clock to 5. Saturday half a day, and Sunday you're home. And I used to maybe we'll have a sandwich, make a submarine shop. You know, like hoagies or sandwiches, whatever you call them, wherever you are. You know, I did think of changing, but it's in my blood. It's in my DNA. It's what I know. And I said, no, it's not going to get me. Finally, you know, I came out of it as somehow I'm going to come through this. And then we were already focusing the celebrity part of it, and now we're just going full. I mean, it's the same amount of paperwork as I always. The analogy for me is a realtor. You can sell a $150,000 house or $1 million house. The work is the same, but the $1 million house pays you a better commission. So for me, I can send a comedian on a ship for XYZ dollars, or I can send Nicole Kidman to an event. It's the same amount of paperwork, but I make a lot more money with Nicole Kidman. So we're really focusing to the celebrity appearances.
Sure. And here in Wisconsin, even just small town Main Street, it went from being a ghost town last summer to, it seems almost like the Renaissance has come back, and there's this new revival, especially with small businesses. Huge amount of support coming back to them, even local restaurants especially. Is that the same over in Vegas? I mean, do things seem to be exploding back?
Yeah. When the town closed down, and this town is 24/7 city, literally a 24/7 city, and so I don't forget what day it closed up. But the Friday, it was a Friday. Friday, the traffic's bad almost anywhere in the world. Here, tons of drive-in traffic from Southern California. I told her, let's get in the car and let's go see what's happening on the strip. It was a ghost town. I mean, casinos boarded up. They had plywood in the doors because there was no locks on the door. So they plywood the door in front of every main entrance. There was a Metro police officer with their lights on to make sure nobody went in. And it was like deserted. And I said, let's go the next morning. Next morning, it felt like the marathon was in town. There was nobody on the street. I mean, absolutely no one. And there was a great photographer, and I forgot his name, but he took some great shots. just of the strip, all the, at daytime, because at nighttime it was even dark. They didn't put on the lights. Why spend the money on power when you don't need to? But there was not one car. It looked like it was photoshopped out. It was amazing, just crazy. And then when the restaurants opened up only for takeout, I said, we've got to support our restaurants. These people are hurting just as much as us, if not more. And sure enough, and then it opened up a little bit more, and a little bit more. Then the shows started popping up, and I think every show's open now in Las Vegas. I think Cirque's Ka was the last one. It opened within the past month. My wife and I went to. I'm a huge musical theater fan. It's my hobby. It's my dream someday of being a producer or just giving him a check and having a producer title. But we went to see Hamilton in Los Angeles, and sure, they send you you have to have mask on the whole time. You have to show proof of vaccination. And we went to the theater. This is first week of October, and it was 85% full. I go, that's pretty cool. That's not bad. They're making money. That's a 60%, 65% of Broadway show makes money. They break even at 60, 65%. Then we have season tickets here to the local theater that has all the Broadway shows called the Smith Center. And we've been now to 3 or 4 full. We've been to several shows. They're pretty full. Restaurants are packed. So it's good to see people out and about. Yeah.
And I've signed a few of the bands that I follow and a few comedians I know. They last year, kind of summer, fall, and down south throughout the winter, they're doing the outdoor shows. Did Vegas do any of that? Were you able to capitalize on that?
They didn't. No, because the casinos don't really have outdoor space
suppose,
here.
Yeah.
The casinos run this town. It's all about the casino. I mean, I think we're one of 3 states that doesn't have a lottery. That's stupid. It's a gambling town. Yeah, but the casinos, they spend $10 on lottery. It's $10 less I have in my slot machine. So we have no lottery in this state. No Powerball. Most of my friends that are into the Powerball, you drive to the California state line, which is 35 minutes away. There's a huge lottery store there. I think probably the lottery store that makes the most amount of money. It's all Nevada residents, and 2/3 of Nevada lives in Las Vegas. But yeah, there is no outdoor spaces. There is in Prim, which is just by where I was saying, in the California line. But no, they didn't really do much. Yeah. But yeah, the outdoor, the shed shows, as they call them in our industry, like in Florida, they were going for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, and you have to make money somehow. Even if you're a performer making XYZ millions a year, after a year and a half, you have a lifestyle you've been trying to maintain, and the bank goes down and down and down. You got to perform somewhere.
Right.
And album sales are nothing now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to a few bands about that, but mostly smaller bands, ones that, they're successful, but they're also not. They're not going to be on the cover of Rolling Stones anytime soon. And if they are, I want my name down in the corner or something. But
yeah, so if they're not performing live, they're not making money.
Right.
End of story. You might make pennies off of Spotify or whatever, basically, and if you published it, even more so. If you just performed it, probably hardly anything. It's about having the rights to the publishing, but it's about live performance.
And I can't imagine trying to navigate that now. I've seen a bit of a resurgence in the vinyl collectors as of late, and I think that's helping out a little bit. I know a lot of bands were selling their merchandise online, especially they had tours lined up that were canceled. But I thought it was kind of cool. I saw some bands doing the drive-through tours, so they actually book shows at drive-in theaters.
They did that here. There was a comedians on stage in a drive-in theater. I go, well, that's going to be tough because everyone's in their car. Because of COVID, everyone's scared. You have a little speaking. So they're going to perform really, I always hated performing in a live TV studio with no audience because there's no audience reaction. It's the worst, Hey, so that, dun-dun-dun. There's no, how do you can't feed off of that.
Right.
It's tough, really tough,
So looking back at your career as an entrepreneur in the entertainment industry, what's been some of your favorite moments?
There's been a lot. I like making people happy, and when you a casino client in South Florida, it was their 25th anniversary, and we produced shows for them. I want to say it was 10 days in a row, 7 days in a row. I don't know. It was like 10 years ago. I can't remember now. And seeing that client come up to me and give me a big hug, oh my God, this is better than I expected. That's a great feeling. Booking Nicole Kidman, right before the world stopped. It was like the last big thing we did. And, stars at that level, and she is like the number one actress right now in Hollywood anyway. She decided she was going to do it. We went back and forth how to get her there. It was really tough, convoluted negotiations with her manager and her agent. But I was saying, God, I hope this goes well. So, and I had to move that day. So I'm like moving, and it's in the back of my mind. Oh, I hope this is going well. So the next day, so that night at midnight, finally the dust settles. I shoot them an email. Next morning when I wake up, it's there. They go, "Oh my God, Edwin, she was the nicest person in the world. She asked several times, can I do anything else for you?" It's like, oh, thank God it went well. Those are great things. When I was a performer, you see people laughing and applauding, and you're making them escape reality. It's a 45 minutes or an hour and a half show, whatever it may be, and they're just let go of reality and enjoying the performance art for what it is. And it's great to have, life is tough. Like you and I we clocked out of the news because life is tough and getting tougher, and we don't want to know about it.
Right.
I want to live my life and share my time with my friends and loved ones around me, and not have that burden of the world imploding on my shoulder.
I mean, there's only so much bandwidth that we can handle, and why give up X amount of that over to the news, or whatever the case may be. But on the flip side of that, I mean, has there been any moments where you're just pulling your hair out? Oh, can you hear me?
It's breaking up.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Oh, you know what? Let me make one tweak here. Maybe not. Now there's a cord missing.
We have a problem.
Real professional outfit here at Rules the Arena Studio.
Hey, it happens everywhere.
But on the flip side of
cell phone. When you really need the cell phone, it never works.
Right. But on the flip side of some of the best moments, have there been any where you're tearing your hair out and you don't think you're going to get through, or maybe something didn't work out?
Yes. What comes first to mind, I had a tribute band on a cruise ship, Canadian band. So now it's even worse. But back then, they have a special visa to come in the States because they're working, blah, 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 blah. On the visa, it states, how does it work? I think it has the port of embarkation. Whatever port you're landing in the States has to be in the visa. They were going to come in JFK, I think. So it says New York or whatever. Hurricane in the Atlantic. Ship diverts. They divert them. And they're trying to come on in Boston or whatever. Total cluster, you know what? Government won't let them in. It's like, oh my God, it's yes, that was not a fun day. You walk in, that's the first thing you see, and you're dealing with that all day, and it's like challenge after challenge after challenge, and it's all because of a stupid political rule that, anyway, maybe it's not stupid rule. In my sight, let them come in and perform. They're gonna step foot in the U.S. soil for an hour. They're gonna land, hop on a transfer van, get to the ship, and as soon as they're on the ship is registered Bahamas, Netherlands, wherever it is, but it's not U.S. soil. So technically, they're not a U.S. soil. Anyway.
In hindsight, I mean, if you could go back to yourself at that point and say, hey, why don't you try this instead of that? Or, do you know what I mean?
Yep. I agree. Now, the bands that I have that are Canadian bands that work a lot for me, I have them buy, I forgot what it's called. It's a different visa, and it was the visa was made for circus performers. But now every entertainer's jumping on it because they get the visa. It's minuscule, like $100 or less for the year, and it doesn't matter. You go in wherever you want. So that's it. You've got to get that visa because if you don't have to land here or whatever. So yes, you always learn from your mistakes, and if you don't, shame on you.
So if there's anyone out there that's listening and whether they want to start their own business or they want to get into similar position as you, working in the entertainment industry, I mean, what advice would you offer up to them?
Work hard. it looks easy, but it's not easy. Like any business in the world, the harder you work at it, the luckier you get. It's an old cliche, but it's very true. Be nice to everybody, because the guy that's cleaning the floor here at the casino in 10 years, he might be in charge of the whole casino. And I've seen that happen multiple times in both the cruise industry and the casino industry. And just treat everybody with respect. I am not a believer in winner take all. Far from it. I think when you sit at a table and I have an entertainer and I have a client that's going to book the entertainer and I'm in the middle, I think everybody at that table has to win. And everybody has to give a little bit. But my idea is that I wanted to make a great deal for everybody. You walk away, okay, it wasn't as much as I could have gotten, but it's good enough. And this guy's going to come back to me in the next 10 years and book more stuff from me. So treat everybody with respect. Be nice to everybody, because you never know.
And most importantly, if there's anybody that wants to get in touch with you to book for a show or whatever the case may be, or maybe just follow along on social media, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter. I like Twitter. I can get all my news from Twitter, like for industry news. Basically, I follow certain people, Las Vegas news, what shows are opening, whatever. It's at Rojas, Rojas Talent, and that's my website, rojastalent.com, ROJAS talent.com.
Oh, perfect.
It's a Spanish J. It's an H, but it's a J.
Well, Edwin, thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come on the show. I really appreciate it. And thank you again for being patient with me. This week has kind of went sideways on me. So.
All right. Life throws things at you. We just got to go with the flow. Nobody died. It's not what
right.
Nobody died. I had a great chat, and thank you for inviting me on, and I hope much success to you, and hope to see this take off, and this be your full-time gig, so you have the energy for it 24/7.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And if you don't mind just hanging around for a little bit, but otherwise, everyone, thanks for tuning in this week. We will catch you next time.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
There we go.
That sucked.
No, that was a lot of fun. Thank you.